All right, so we all know how important Scream was for the genre. Well, let's talk about another movie that is right up there as one of the most important slasher movies of the last 30 years. Oh, and also has a sequel coming out soon. So let's talk about the 1997 slasher juggernaut called I Know What You Did Last Summer. What is up, everyone? Welcome to Mad Blood, and let me know down in the comments down below what you think about the 1997 slasher movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Are you a massive fan like I am of these late 90s slasher movies? Are you kind of in the middle? Are you not a fan? Let me know. So this movie came out less than a year after Scream, and we don't need to talk too much about Scream's influence on the genre. You guys know about that. You guys know how important Scream was. You know how much money Scream ended up making, which, yes, told the studios, okay, they tapped into a little something there. We also want to tap into that audience. So whatever they did, guys, just go do what they did and make us some money. And a lot of people who are just casual fans of the genre look at this movie as basically a Scream ripoff, but it's actually not. And yes, with that said, is there a chance that this movie never would have even been made if it wasn't for Scream's success? Yeah, of course. Did Scream's success make the studio way more confident in greenlighting this script, greenlighting this adaptation of Lewis Duncan's book? Yes, of course. But with that said, the script for this movie was actually written before Scream even came out. But if Scream started that whole 90s slasher tidal wave, I don't think this movie was just there to just hop on that wave. I really do think this movie really did make that wave bigger and bigger. And I do think that this movie is a huge reason why this section of the genre really did take off. And even though this movie is also written by Kevin Williamson, who also wrote Scream, this movie doesn't bash you over the head with the comedy and the self-awareness. Yes, this movie does have some of that trickled in the movie, but Kevin and director Jim Gillespie wanted to make something that resembled something a little closer to kind of a 70s and 80s traditional slasher thriller movie. And kind of like I said in my Urban Legend review, I feel like even all these years later, it's still pretty rare we get slasher movies that are just purely as fun as these late 90s slasher movies. You know, movies like Scream and Urban Legend and those movies, they just have that classic fun aspect to them. You know, they're bloody, they're intense. It's kind of the epitome of that blueprint of that late 90s horror, like date night type of movie. And also, I will always be just a fan of whodunit type slasher movies. I love it, but also this movie has this foundational approach to a slasher movie that I personally really enjoy, which kicks off right after they run over Ben in this movie. This group basically at that point steps outside of society because they have to figure out this entire situation now on their own because of the choices they have made. The police are basically right next to them. Their parents are right next to them. Help is all over the place. They are being chased by this madman, but they can't get help because of the choices they have made. And they have to figure out all of this craziness on their own. And I just enjoy that journey. So the plot of this movie is essentially this. 4 friends, after a night of partying on the 4th of July, hit someone with their car and then throw them in the ocean to cover it up. 1 year later, though, they find themselves being stalked by a maniac fisherman with a hook. And from the moment this movie starts, it's like, who is this guy that they show on the rocks here just for a moment? And then immediately right after that, they establish this movie as just a great movie for the summertime, 4th of July type of slasher, which I think is great, finding the little niche for this movie, especially just with holidays and the time period of a perfect time of year that's not just, you know, the Halloween season and stuff. But also, they immediately set up Max as a big red herring early on in the movie as well. And then right after the group heads to Dawson's Beach, I feel like there's just something building here towards a big moment that you can feel. And I feel like right as they head to the beach, after that, it really never lets up that tension and that buildup, really honestly, until the very end of the movie. There's just this great anticipation that something is about to happen. And then after it happens, they immediately start the anticipation for the next scene. I just think that's pulled off really, really well, and it continues just over and over throughout the entire movie. Plus, we're starting this movie at this massive crossroads for the character, which is also very relatable to a lot of us. They're graduating, they're planning on going in all these different directions, you know, going after their dreams and aspirations and all of that. But after what happens in the opening stages of this movie, I mean, it changes all of that forever. It's just like this great push and pull with the characters in this moment. They're trying to grow up. They're trying to leave behind this small town. They're trying to go off and, like I said, chase their dreams. But basically now they can't. They will always be linked together, and they will always have this massive monkey on their back. I also love this moment at the beach, the setting for all of it. You got the ship right there. You've got the fire going. They're swapping stories about this urban legend, this guy with the hook. They're arguing about it, which is hinting to us we're going to be getting a new urban legend in this movie, and we're going to be able to witness every single moment of it. Oh, and by the way, here's a couple shots of me visiting the filming location where they filmed the bonfire and all the beach scenes at night before the whole car crash. It's at a beach called Schoolhouse Beach, just north of Bodega Bay in Northern California. I highly recommend checking it out, especially if you're a fan of this movie. And of course, after they hit Ben, I just think the four actors do a great job in this movie, portraying to us how quickly things can change, how quickly your dreams can essentially evaporate when you're out there just doing kind of the dumb shit that a lot of teenagers do. I know for me, looking back, I mean, there were several times in my teenage years that if just one little thing went a little differently, that could have changed my entire life for a long time. By the way, I love how this entire scene on the Highway 1 is shot here. The crane shots, the lighting, all of it. I've driven on this exact location where they shot this moment, and throughout all of this section of the Highway 1, it is a dangerous section of the highway, and I think it's a brilliant filming location to film a whole like a hit and run scene like this. And I love how after the jump scare with Ben underneath the water, he's kind of standing there looking up like he's Jason Voorhees at the bottom of Crystal Lake. I also feel like you can kind of see him scheming his ultimate plan. He's like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just thinking about this on the fly. I'm going to make them think that I am actually dead down here. That way I can really, really mess with them and they will never, ever trace it back to me. Now, this moment is only in the movie just for a second, but I think it is a great little nugget of gold to show that little locket there for a second that says, I love you. It basically takes all of your theories about who is doing this ultimately throughout the movie and just throws it into like this confusing blender, because at this point you're like, okay, it's gotta be the guy that we saw on the cliff at the beginning of the movie. Also, what a perfect cast to play the different characters in this movie. I feel like the actors, they do such a great job playing the personalities of their particular character, just absolutely to a T. I mean, I could make an argument this is the best cast in a slasher movie ever. I mean, Ryan Phillippe as Barry Cox, first of all, that is a ridiculous name for a character, but still a damn good choice to play just this spoiled asshole, wild jock kind of a guy. And yeah, you could say, okay, does he look like the stature of a guy that could play a college quarterback? No, definitely not. And in this movie, does he look like somebody who is really athletic? No, not really. I mean, look at the way that he's running to go and punch Ray in that moment. I mean, that is about as dorky of a walk as you could possibly imagine. But I feel like Ryan's acting does definitely make up for that. I mean, just like in the movie Cruel Intentions, he just does a damn good job playing that spoiled asshole. And yeah, of course, Jennifer Love Hewitt playing Julie James in this movie, this beautiful girl who's like very down to earth and also plays a character who's very believable as a nice girl. She's vulnerable in this movie, but also resilient at the same time. Kind of everything you would want in the prototypical, like, perfect final girl. Honestly, to me, I feel like Julie is a top 5 final girl in the genre for me. Kind of crazy too, like this was the first lead role for Jennifer Love Hewitt in a movie. Her character arc in this movie also does make sense to me. It's not like in this movie she's playing this character who's just like really scared and really like hesitant to do what she needs to do, and then all of a sudden they just randomly flip the switch and she's just kicking ass. No, I feel like it builds like in an organic way throughout this movie. You know, her dad is not alive, so I'm sure she's been through some stuff. She's built up some resilience with all of that, of course. Her character just kind of gets more and more tough, and throughout the movie, she really starts to realize slowly, and it feels like it's a very natural way, that, you know, nobody else is going to be able to figure this out for her. She has to proactively figure out not only who is doing this, but how are they going to get out of this situation? And she does that, and her character just slowly builds and builds and builds and becomes even more of a badass as the movie goes on. Now, I love Freddie Prinze Jr., but as Ray in this movie and this early in his acting career, he is definitely the weaker out of the four, just in my opinion. I think throughout this movie, he's very whiny. And also, he's very reactive, I feel like, in this movie. Yeah, he kicks some ass at the end of this movie. He saves Julie's life in a lot of different ways, but he also has some of the dumbest ideas in this movie as well. It's like, okay, cool, Ray. Yeah, let's just run away. That's really going to help. Luckily for Ray's character, he is much better in the sequel. And Sarah Michelle Gellar as Helen Shivers, she is just feisty as hell in this movie, and I love it. Like that moment when she's in the cop car and that dipshit is not believing anything that she's saying. He's kind of making fun of her, and she says, "Look here, you little shit stick, Mayberry ass reject. There's been a murder and you're gonna fry in hell if you ignore it." She's such an icon, and she's also perfect in this movie. And once again, it just makes me sad that she had to die so quickly, not only in this franchise, but also in the Scream franchise as well. And I get it. She's a busy woman. She had a lot of other roles going on, especially in the late 90s and all of that. But yeah, it just kind of makes me sad we didn't get more Helen in this franchise, and also more Sarah Michelle Gellar in the Scream franchise as well. And obviously in this movie, we get the time jump. We jump to 1 year later. And speaking of anticipation, so Julie comes home. Obviously, everything that happens really been weighing on her. It's been basically ruining her life. Her mom sees it as well. Her mom says, "Hey, you have a letter." And she opens up the letter, and it's the first one we ever see in this franchise. And it says, "I know what you did last summer." I feel like it is such a brilliant setup for the rest of this movie. It's kind of like, who the hell is writing this? It's got to be Max, right? No, I mean, that maybe seems a little bit too obvious, but whoever it is, they know that she's home. They know where she lives. Obviously, they have some sort of a plan. Maybe they want to kill her. But, you know, obviously they haven't decided to do that yet, so they have a more elaborate plan. I just think it absolutely hooks me for the rest of this movie. And Julie's not the only one. Yeah, a lot of them did end up leaving and trying to pursue their dreams. And yeah, they avoided the police technically, but they might as well be in jail because they just haven't been able to just shake this huge monkey on their back that has basically ruined their life. Helen had to leave New York early. Ray just ended up staying home and working as a fisherman. Oh yeah, speaking of Max, Max isn't a red herring in this movie for too long, but regardless, I do enjoy Max's whole death scene, the anticipation of all of it. The hook is gone off of the ice. You got the steam and all of that. You can kind of see the slicker outfit through the steam where Max is looking, and then he gets the hook right up through the whole chin area, pulled across the table like he is an actual fish and all of that. I think it's really damn good. I do, though, wish they would have made this scene just a little bit longer, maybe add in another fake out or two. But regardless of that, really glad they ended up adding this scene later in reshoots to make the movie just a little bit bloodier, just make it feel a little bit more gruesome. If you don't know the story behind it, they just basically thought, you know, the movie wasn't gory enough, so they ended up, after the movie was done, reshooting this to add this to the movie. But with that said, it's a fun little quick kill, and if you think about it, it's kind of a shock to your system because up until this point in the movie, this is by far the most graphic and gory thing that we see. And it tells you right away, okay, this fisherman, he's not going to just try to get these kids arrested or just mess with them. No. This guy is planning, or whoever it is planning on doing some evil shit. he's going to make them pay in a horrific way. And also on top of that, it helps to set up the next scene we're going to see with Barry at the gym, because after this moment, you're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, after what we just saw, clearly this dude is not messing around. He's going to do some horrific shit. So there's a possibility that that might happen to Barry as well. It just adds a little extra tension to that scene also. And also on top of that, now with Max dead, it really does make your brain kind of think, because prior to that scene, Julie tells us that they found the dead body of the person that they ran over. So now you're kind of thinking to yourself like, wait, what is going on? Like, who the hell is doing this? I also like how after the whole Max death scene, Barry then virtually gets an entire kill scene, which is a lot of fun as well, with the great fake outs. We're at the gym and all of that, the whole car chase sequence. It's pretty intense. And then it also reminds you that this fisherman lets him go. So what is he thinking? No, he doesn't want to just kill these kids. Like I mentioned earlier, it's really just nailing home. No, he wants to absolutely torture them along the way. But like I mentioned a second ago, we're virtually getting 2 kill scenes for one character, which I do think is cool, even though like the scene that does give us Barry's ultimate demise is pretty lame. It's like, why were you up in the balcony all by yourself? I get that's where you and your friends would usually hang out, but still, I mean, shouldn't you have been down with the crowd, with everyone else? Wouldn't that have been a much better idea? But I love how in the locker room at the gym, they also have a heavy bag and a bench press and all of that right next to the lockers. It's kind of like, well, I guess there's no better way to get a pump than watch a couple dudes change naked next to you. Now, with that said, the original filming location, they were going to film this entire scene. They lost it kind of at the last moment, so they had to find this building that was empty and make it just basically look like a believable gym with lockers and workout equipment and all of that. But regardless, this whole Barry chase scene at the gym, it's one of the best in the franchise. Now, speaking of being sad, we didn't get more Helen in this franchise. With that said, she still gives us one of the best slasher chase scenes of all time. A chase scene that kind of has everything. I mean, it goes from the alley, that whole great moment with the police officer getting killed, then the chase all the way to Shivers, and then that whole moment with Elsa getting carried with the hook. Just reminding you that this fisherman is an absolute savage. But this moment, I mean, it's got great jump scares, like that moment when the fisherman jumps out like it's a mannequin out of the plastic, all of that, back into the alleyway, just inches from the parade, inches from being safe. And then, Helen starts to fight back. And yeah, it's a moment where you're definitely yelling at the screen, like, just keep running. What are you doing? But, she's fighting back, all of that. But ultimately, in the end, yeah, it's not enough. But yeah, the Helen chase scene, I mean, it is just all-time great shit. I mean, speaking of the fisherman as well, I love the killer in this movie, the look of the killer, the weapon of the killer. I mean, obviously, it fits this whole vibe of this like small town fishing village type of a thing, which I think is great, but just the look of the slicker, this hook, it's just a vicious and brutal weapon to use in this movie that just absolutely works for me. I also think in this movie, it's not as tropey also in the typical slasher sense of like a guy walking around in a mask. So we don't have that, which I think is great. It feels very like simple, but also unique. But on top of that, I think they do a great job with the shadows and the mystery and just how they shoot the killer in this movie that is so effective, adds to the creepiness of the killer in this movie. We get some great silhouette shots like at Shivers there when he's walking through the plastic mannequins and all of that. Just like a really cool silhouette shot that we get throughout this movie, which I think is great. Adds to how scary this character is and just the mystery, like I said, about the killer. Yeah, it's one of my favorite killers and looks for a killer and weapons for a killer, honestly, in the entire genre. Now, speaking of classic slasher moments, I mean, of course, towards the end of this movie, we've got Julie. She's running all over the place. She's been doing her research. Like I said, she's becoming more and more proactive. She knows at this point, she's got to figure this out. She's been digging and digging and digging, and now she's running around to also tell her friends about what she found and also to just get to the bottom of this. But personally, I love the ending of this movie. I just think it is absolutely classic slasher stuff. I mean, you get the whole Billy Blue moment, you know, kind of thinking that Freddie Prinze could be the killer there, you know, also directing him to play like he's a little bit suspicious. You know, he's like, just come aboard, you know, we'll take my hand, you know, we'll just figure this all out. Then this older fisherman intervenes, kind of seems like he's saving the day. But no, as soon as Julie gets onto that boat, she notices this guy's got just like a whole shrine about them. And also, what a great place to end a slasher movie. It's nighttime. We're on this old fishing boat that's obviously been through plenty of years at sea. It also makes sense because this is a great place to hide the bodies on ice in the same place you would hide the fish after catching the fish. Plus, bonus points, honestly, to the rest of the crew for just pulling all of this off, because apparently with the tides changing and the currents and where they had to film all of this, apparently it was absolutely brutal, damn near impossible to pull this off. But with that said, they really did. They pulled all of this off. So yeah, got to give props to the entire crew for just nailing this.
Happy 4th of July, Julie.
Please, it was an accident.
I know all about accidents. And let me give you some advice. When you leave a man for dead, make sure he's really dead.
I mean, that's just an all-time great slasher movie quote right there. One of my favorites ever. Then he gets his hand chopped off, just playing even more into the whole urban legend guy with a hook thing that's setting up, you know, of course, the sequel. But when Ben falls into the ocean without his hand, I feel like it's just ambiguous enough to keep it fun, but it doesn't really feel like blatant, like sequel bait. I mean, like the cop says, well, don't worry, the body will turn up. They usually do. And it's like, oh, usually. All right. Then, of course, the classic outro dream sequence, hallucination sequence, whatever you want to call it, but just a great mix of creepiness, but also sexiness at the same time. But love that jump scare. I just think that's a lot of fun. It sends you out of the theater either laughing at yourself because the jump scare got you, or you're laughing at the person next to you because it got them. Now, what's great about this movie is, yes, it is a teen type, like popcorn slasher movie, but it really is more than that. It's not just a slasher movie. It really is a really great story adapted from a book. And yeah, this movie does have some of that original Scream's just DNA within it. And obviously, the two movies are from the same era, so they will always share that relationship with each other. But when I watch this movie, I don't immediately think about Scream. It's got that young, upbeat stuff that Scream definitely has as well, but I also feel like they mix that so well with the traditional classic 80s slasher approach. And also, it's just the right cast, the right story, the right genre, right at the perfect time in the late 90s. I just feel like it's a perfect storm. Easily one of my favorite slasher movies of all time. And I also feel like this movie, along with this sequel, are some of the most fun I have ever had in horror history, just as far as like a 1-2 combination goes. All right, anyways, that is my review of the original I Know What You Did Last Summer from 1997. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like on it. It really does help this video out a lot. If you want some more videos from me right now, go ahead and check out one of these videos next to me. If you don't want to miss future videos on the channel, make sure you subscribe. That's the best way to do that. But again, thanks so much for watching, everybody. Really do appreciate it. All of my social media links are down below in the description if you want to follow me over there. But my name is Matt, and I will talk to you in the next one. What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?